What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Skip. Here, I'm your host, Skip Mirazi, here on another podcast. We're working on the animation, behind-the-scenes animation for Cox in Space. If you would like to see what we're up to with Cox in Space, you can always go check that out at coxinspace.com. That's coxinspace.com. And you can check out the first clip and see some of the behind-the-scenes episodes that we have done over the last year. See the panels as Jack draws them, the conversations that we had while it was happening. Get to know us if you're interested in seeing what type of people we are. If we're cool guys or not cool guys. Come check that out. I'm glad to have you here today. Gonna carry on with this as we've been doing for a while now. It does seem like it's been quite some time. I think we're going on 2 years that we've been working on just the prep for this show. Aaron and I started putting together. We got together with Jack in March or April of last year, and we had started working on the scripts in January. So it's been we are now, I guess we're about a year and a half. At this time in history. So thank you for being here. I'm glad that you get to see what the whole process is. Just because it's a good thing to see. It's a good thing to witness. I think for people who are who want to work on a creative project, and it's because it's so discouraging to do it sometimes, because it takes a while. Everything seems to just take a while, and that's true. I'm also working on a novel right now, it's same thing with writing a novel. These things just take time, baby. Welcome to the show. I'm adjusting some things to see what we got. Yes, okay, so we do have this one cut out, and we're gonna keep working on it. So, here with you to talk about just stuff on the mind, as it is. One of the things about this podcast is definitely more freeform, in that I share with you just stuff that I'm thinking about, and invite you onto the show. Also, actually, if you want to come onto the show, you can always check out our Discord. That you go to coxinspace.com, click on the Discord link. That'll give you an invitation to our server, and you can come have a conversation up there on the server with me while we hang out. I just ask, you bring something to the table when you come in. A point of view is always great. And then, if you're the type of person who likes to hear from another person and then share also in a meaningful way, I would definitely like to talk to you also. Since I'm here today, one of the things I want to talk about, I didn't stream yesterday, because I was kind of like wrestling with the idea of whether or not I wanted to talk about this. So instead I went for a long walk and hike, which was really great. I spent some time just outside, which has done me a lot of good. I caught some sun. I got a few bug bites. I got to experience the breeze. And that it was good. It's good to do that. One of the things that struck me about the time that I was there was that I'm 42 this year. I just turned this month to the answer to life, the universe, and everything, and that's been really, really cool. And for me, as I was sitting and reflecting in the time that I had yesterday, it was my dad from the job that I was working for a pay And because this is as much a job in so many ways because we spend a lot of time doing it, but it's not for pay at this point. You can help change that if you want to. Go to coxinspace.com, click on the Patreon link on the bottom there, and you can always help support the show so that we can do this more regularly, and keep the show rolling. So I had freedom, right? I had free time on my hands. I was not obligated to anybody. I didn't need to be anywhere. I could literally just go to a place in the woods and sit. And I was reflecting in that time just how cool it was, right? That and being reminded, of course, that how cool it is, because many people my age have so much going on. They're in the middle of their careers. They have kids and grandkids. They got a lot going on, and so it's more difficult for them to actively take that time to stop and sit. And there I was, just getting to enjoy that time. So I tried to be grateful for it. I see you hear me say I tried. It was a little bit of a challenge. I'm not gonna lie. Because I was like, man, I really wish I had something to do. I was important. I had some reason for existing, which is just a classic capitalist mindset, that if you're not making dollars, it doesn't make sense. But I think a lot of people are burned out because of this old mindset. I think a lot of people are very much like, geez, I wish I could just take a break, right? And so, like I said, I tried to recognize that and then also be grateful for that. Well, that right there is not cool. I don't know if you guys are seeing that, but that whole thing crashed. It might be because Photopea has been open for a really long time. Yeah, there's the Discord if you guys want to check in on the Discord. Photopea is a web-based app, so it's based on the browser, of course, working. So yeah, just being grateful for the fact that I got to do that. It was, that's kind of a big deal. That people don't get to do that necessarily. There I was getting to do it. Turn this down again to see what we're listening to today. It's the God Frequency. I'm pretty sure that's AI. I'm pretty sure that cat's AI, and this is probably, probably AI running that. So here I am, incidentally supporting it, which it's going to come to the point. I mean, it kind of is at the point now where it's not that I support it. It's just it's hard not to run into artificial generated things. But one of the things I was thinking about in that I was trying to avoid not talking about is something that I touched on briefly during the episode, the previous episode, which is this idea of like getting out of a bad relationship. And I kind of hit on some of the reasons that I felt that it was a bad relationship. There was a constant degrading attitude towards me and everything that I did. And it was real subtle. It was so subtle that since it was a new-ish relationship, didn't really quite notice it. And I'd always been in pretty healthy relationships, so I didn't really take it as too much of a critique. One of the things that I mentioned during that time was that in the last podcast, that because I know who I am and I'm very assured in who I am because of the experiences that I've had and things that I've done, that it wasn't really getting to me so much. But then I noticed over time it was kind of like, I was just like, damn, why do I feel like shit every time that we hang out or we get together? Like why this constant feeling? And then I was noticing, I was like, oh, it's because nothing is ever good enough. And so, I had the conversation, of course, as you do in a healthy relationship, like, man, you got to stop. Like I know that there's, I'm not perfect for sure, but like the constant like negging is kind of that's kind of a problem, because I'm not, I'm not that terrible. And actually, some of the things that I was being negged on, I noticed were things that I had been asked to do in specific ways, and then when I did them in those specific ways, they were still critiqued. So it was like this disconnect between, it wasn't actually related to the incident, right? It was actually something else was causing this to happen, and so I was like, that's very strange. But so that's one of the things that I briefly mentioned, and so that's one of the things you can notice if you like wondering. Now, in some cases, men, they're like, oh, my woman's always nagging me, and that is because they're pieces of shit. you know, the woman or whoever it is, if you're same sex, it could be two women, it could be two men, but your partner could be complaining about a lot of things about you, could be, and maybe it is your fault, and well, that's some of the things I wanted to talk about, because that's not necessarily the only thing. You could hear me say that and be like, well, maybe you needed to do the things, right? That's what I wanted to clarify, is that in some of the cases, in a lot of the cases, they weren't actually based on anything bad. They were just not up to this, imaginary level of perfection that was required, in order to be around this person. So that's one thing that I would encourage you guys to look for. And then the other thing was that just this feeling that, and this is true of any relationship, whether you're dating or you're just hanging out with your friend, is that just this residual like bad feeling. Jesus, why did it do that one? Like as we're hanging out, I was like, man, I just don't feel like refreshed after hanging out with this person. Like when we spend time together, I feel like bad, like I feel like, and lucky for me, and a lot of people don't necessarily have this, but lucky for me, I have had a lot of really great relationships. Like the people that I have been with real close, and my good friends, that after we spend time together, I'm always like, yeah, that was fun. We had a great time. We cracked a bunch of jokes. We encouraged each other. We definitely like lifted my mood. It lifted my perspective. Like I learned something. I grew as a person, or we just there wasn't this like weird tension that existed, right? This anxiousness that, if I didn't live up to this expectation, that suddenly we wouldn't be friends anymore. And I think that's important to note. I think that's really important to note for people who are wondering if they're in a bad relationship too, is, whether it's a friendship or it's a close relationship, when you spend time with this person, do you feel refreshed afterwards? Do you feel, like you're in a good place, good headspace, or do you always feel anxious and worn out from the dance that you have to do to be around them? So these are just really great things to note that can be good indicators of it, because first of all, I'll ask you, why would you want to spend time with somebody who you don't enjoy spending time with, right? And that's kind of what it comes down to, is that why are you even around people that constantly make you feel bad? Now, it can be the case, right, that you're just used to it. Like maybe you've worked jobs with people your entire life. Whoops, there. And they've always made you feel bad and inferior, because there's a lot of people who do this to people. And so it might be a regular thing. It might be that you were raised in a place like I was, where there was this constant feeling of you're not good enough, you're not measuring up. I was raised in a Calvinist Baptist church, and one of John Calvin's ideas is that like we are worms, right? We deserve the judgment and punishment of God because we're born in this state of sin, and that God only chooses a specific few who even have the ability to like approach Him. And so if you're in that place and you're being destroyed by Him, it's just a normal state, that we have to strive really hard to get God's attention, keep God's attention, which is I think more a reflection on John Calvin than it is on the state of God and who they are. So I think that Mr. Calvin was probably not a great person, and so that is why he projected onto the universe this idea of just a terrible way of thinking about yourself and the world. That people always probably had to make it up to him and prove themselves to him, and so he then he said that of course God is this way because I'm this way, and I would say that's more of a fallen state than anything else I've ever experienced from the nature of the universe or reality. I've talked quite a bit about that, so if you want to, you can go double check in a couple of the other episodes. I think it was like 2 or 3 ago that I went into the nature of reality as I see it, or the universe as I see it, and how that state is a constant state of love, because of the evidence of what you can see, right? Based on what you can see in the way that the universe responds and behaves. So you're welcome to disagree if you want. Of course, comment below if you disagree and you have thoughts of your own, because I do listen to them. I think there's room for discourse on that. I don't think that anybody can know the nature of reality or God fully, and so that's why we need to continue to discuss within the parameters, of course, that with the listening, the ability to listen to one another. So I won't go too much into that today, but that's so I was raised in that place too, where I felt like we should always feel bad about ourselves, and so that carried over into my relationships and who I felt attracted to, like when I feel like I'm being hurt by them is I feel like maybe I found love then, which is pretty destructive for myself. So, but just that feeling, like, and I think that the difference there. I hope you know the difference. If not, change your friend group. Spend some time alone. And I know that's scary. That's a scary thing to say, because for a lot of people, being alone, without a community is terrifying. And I understand that, maybe less so being autistic and being just what people often refer to as an odd duck, who it doesn't fit in well with a lot of groups, and mainly because I don't see the world the same way that a lot of people do, because I don't understand the things they value. But so that feeling, just the feeling of just being anxious and being sad and not feeling the joy when you're around these types of people. So that's a good indicator. That was a good indicator for me, and I hope that can help you shed some light on it. But there was other things too, because like I said, there was I didn't bail because of that. That wasn't the end of the relationship there. Being the type of person I come from, I have had really healthy relationships. I studied improv, which helped out a lot as well, and so because of that, one of the things that I do in my relationships is talk about it, and talk it out. And so, like, hey, this is not the way. If you want to keep hanging out with me, I'm not going to respond well to that, right? Like just there's no compliments. It's always critiques. There's not even gratitude for the things that I have done. It's just critiques. It's either critiques or nothing, and so that was my comment. Like, hey, that's not really a healthy way to to interact with people, because it seems as if you're overlooking all the good things that I do for you, and only focusing on the bad. Um, and this is the part where it really began to like sink home that this is probably not a healthy relationship, because this person probably wasn't where they want to be, or they need to be in a relationship. I would say need, although the person who is in that relationship would probably argue, you know, it's not something that you need, because maybe they've never experienced them for themselves. And I don't think that this person has. Um, but yeah, so having that conversation, like, hey, this is not healthy to be this way. You actually just make me feel bad all the time, and that's not a place. If you want to stick around, like, you're not going to be able to keep doing that, because that's um, I am I am worth more than that. Damn, why is it doing this? Alright, that's really weird. Photopea is generally pretty good about, um, you know, uh, yay, there's my friends uploading stuff. Um, so, but here's the kicker, right? Is that, like, just bringing that up, all of a sudden it became a much bigger fight. All the conversation was, hey, you don't seem to be recognizing, the good things that I do for you. Like, I don't even get a thank you, for those. It seems like you just expect me to do these things for you, and then when there's any little thing that you can possibly harp on, you do. And that is pretty toxic behavior, right? That is when this person, and from what I understand, this is pretty common, um, decided to become offended by that sort of bigger argument. Not about the topic itself, but about the way that they were being addressed, and how that they needed to be addressed better than that. Um, and which is wild. I mean, when you think about it, right? Because, like, the question, the statement was, "Hey, you shouldn't be treating me specifically, but people like this. You shouldn't be treating people like this, because it makes you seem ungrateful, right? Like, you're not seeming to notice the good things that are being done for you. Only trying to put your like, raise yourself up by bringing other people down, right? And that's really just like standard bully behavior. And this might not shock a whole lot of people, but being strange the way that I am, and having a goofy look, which I do, you can comment. It's a goofy look. You actually don't get to see it often, but you see, full look there. Just, I'm a goofy looking person. So, was bullied a lot, and so, like, that's just standard bully behavior. Is that, and recognizable, right? Like, people who feel low, like, they feel that they have low self-esteem, they go out of their way to try to lower the people around them, because they perceive people who are just normal, just going about their day, living life joyfully, as being above them, because they see everybody above them, because they have such a low view of themselves. And so, that's just, like, bad behavior. If you're the type of person who is constantly critiquing other people, and constantly, like, down talking them, and constantly gossiping about them, just recognize that, like, that shows really bad on you, because it shows that your view of yourself is fairly low, and that can change. It doesn't have to stay that way. If you feel like, you're less than other people, you don't have to stay in that state. Which is, that's a cool statement, I hope, for you to hear. If you have low self-esteem, you don't have to keep having low self-esteem. You can actually, you're the one who that's happening inside your own head. So you're the one who can fix that and change that, for yourself. So you can always raise your own value in your own mind. Now, the interesting thing that happens is, actually, there's two things that are happening. Is that, there's a false self-evaluation. This is what happens specifically in this relationship. There's a false self-evaluation that, like, they are, they have a high view of themselves, that they are, spectacular and wonderful and all that sort of stuff. And then underneath that, there's this belief and understanding that actually they ain't shit. And there's a whole lot of things that, so they have to bring other people down around them because they realize that they ain't shit, or they don't have that freedom that I seem to express. And really, I mean, for me, like I think I mentioned, and I'll say again, is that, not that I feel like I am like the best at everything, but I do have a lot of self-respect, because I have seen a bunch and I have been through a bunch, and I keep surviving. That be it as it may, I'm the type of person who gets stuff done, who works very hard, who follows through on the things that I say that I'll do, because even though I don't have a whole lot, I'm not wealthy, I don't have a whole lot of status at this point, that I'm not wealthy yet, I don't have a whole lot of status at this point, that even though that's the case, what I need from myself is just the ability to look at myself every day and be like, you know what, maybe I don't have those things, but I am the type of person who keeps my word. I am the type of person who's trustworthy. I am the type of person who looks out for other people. I am the type of person who cares very deeply about the world, and the people in it, because I want them to be in a good spot too. I don't want just good things for me. I want the world to be in a good spot. And so, and that's just because, I want to look myself in the mirror every morning, and be like, you know what, I may not have so far achieved everything that I want to. I haven't gotten to the place so far that I want to be at. But I know that that my friends know that they can count on me, and that I don't actively, I don't hurt people, and when I do, I apologize, and I try to fix that, humble myself to be like, I'm capable of making mistakes, it happens, and what can I do to make this situation better. So going back to this, so I bring this up, and the thing that happens is that, this huge fight, multiple fights ensue, where it's denial of the facts, that these things are even occurring, and even when given specific examples of how they are occurring, there was no like addressing of it, no noticing, no, and just that it was all about the, being too sensitive, or not appreciating them actually, the things that they bring, which, the more I evaluate, the more I was like, you don't, that, it's not, there was always this, that if I didn't measure up to this perfect standard, where the standard kept changing, even if it, like I said, was exactly what I was asked to do, or exactly how I was told to respond, then it still wasn't going to be good enough that they were going to be gone, right? And so that was like kind of lorded over, like, I could always just move on. And so there was that, and that's when I'm like, oh, that's, real toxic behavior. It took me a little while to notice that, because I'm an idealist, and I always want to believe that nobody's doing that on purpose, or that, this is like behavior that can't be fixed, because I believe that, everybody is capable of change. But one thing that I noticed was that the only thing that was coming from in these conversations was this litany of excuses, why they should be able to behave this way, and the justification of why they should be able to behave that way. And I think that you will notice that too. That if you'll notice that, if you're in this type of situation, the person is not addressing the issue themselves. They're not recognizing that they are part of the problem. In fact, they will not take any accountability for their own behavior, and instead they want you to change yourself so that they can continue to do what they want to do, which is be in control and have the power over you. And so that it was just I was just like wow. And then more things kept occurring because it didn't stop there. It wasn't just like little things, but like like here are the specific examples of your behavior, which is the thing that was asked for. And they weren't acknowledged. There was no apology. There was no offer to make them right or to do anything different. In a lot of ways, it was just that's not true is one of the situations, and then when proven true, this is just how I am. You need to learn to get along with that if you're gonna continue to be around. And so if you guys are in that situation, just notice this is pretty common. This is pretty common from what I understand. This is one of my firsts, running into a relationship like this. But yeah, no, I'm a person who doesn't take accountability for their own behavior as a person who's going to keep doing it because they feel justified in doing it, right? And that's what I found out. Unfortunately, that's what I found out. That they just felt like this is how they should be able. This is the things they should be able to get away with. Is behaving in this way, like a bully. Like a brat, a spoiled brat. Because they felt that was the Marilyn Monroe quote about being toxic, really, when you break it down. But if you don't love me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. And it's hella toxic. I love Marilyn. I think that I think that she she was a foster kid, right? Or she was an orphan, and she was probably sexually abused early on. Is my guess from her behavior, and so compassion for that. I think that when you see her perform, I think you see a very fantastic performance because she's doing this one character that she knows that would get a lot of attention, and I love her for that. I love her from going from being Norma Jean, this brown-haired orphan, to being Marilyn Monroe. I think that's I have a lot of I have a lot of respect for her, right? Like that, she rose to stardom in a time that it was difficult to do, and so and I have a lot of compassion for her too, because you see, just the type of relationship she had, and people didn't really see her for who she was. They saw her as this symbol, and they wanted that. But she was the type of woman who had a hard time cleaning up after herself. For instance, I think it was Joe DiMaggio who said that her house is a mess. She'd have dirty dishes in her bed. She's wealthy. She could have someone take care of that for her, but she didn't think that she was worth it, and so she did that to herself. So I do have a lot of respect for her, but I think that is a really toxic mentality. I think a lot of people have, is that I can behave badly because I bring such high value to this relationship, and no one does that. One of the things I mentioned and we talked about a bit in the last episode was the book Gone Girl, and the conclusion that the author comes to, that both parties need to show up and be their best at all times, because or as much as possible. I know you can't do it at all times. I definitely don't expect people to be perfect, but they need to do it, absolutely be their best, as much as they possibly can, because that's what you've promised in the relationship. That's what you expect from your partner. So how can you not expect from yourself to also to do that and to bring your best? To the thing that first attracted them to you is the thing that you should. It should be sincere, first of all, and that's part of the problem, is that people put on these whole facades in order to get a mate, and then what is going on there? And then they take that back as soon as they get in the relationship. They relax, and then they become themselves. So the first thing is, of course, be genuine at first, right? So that you can attract the same type of person, that you can and then so you can sustain it. Well, so you can attract the type of person who's attracted to you as a person, actually you as a person, and then because then when you're in the relationship, you're gonna have to keep being whoever it is that you promised. Otherwise, you're a liar, you know. So that's a little bit. I mean, I know that's hard to hear. If people who are like, but I'll never make friends that way. I'll never get a mate that way. I'm like, well, authenticity is probably the greatest gift that you can give yourself, and other people. So, because if they don't like you for who you are, then there's no reason to actually be. There's no actual reason to be around them. It would be my thought on that. If you have to put on these faces, when you're around people, you have to put on a show. You're gonna wear yourself out because you can't maintain that because it's not who you actually are. That is really, really hard to do. I get it. That's definitely easier said than done, for a lot of reasons. Because if you're on the spectrum, people don't like you. That people don't like us, because we're very strange. Because we complicate things more than we need to, because these rules and systems that they have set up, that they just kind of accept, are no longer, they have to be questioned, and so they begin to question their own, like, why do we do those things? And I think that that's difficult for a lot of people. People really want to have their lives be the sort of thing that they can set it and forget it, which to me, I think is really, really dangerous, just for your mental health, because reality itself is constantly evolving and adapting. So if you think for a second that you can set your life up in a specific way and then check out, you're going to find out real quick that your life isn't what you thought it was. It's gonna get away from you real quick, for the specific reasons that you age, entropy exists. That people around you are constantly evolving and changing. And so when you think that, that it's not going to change, you've done yourself and everyone else around you a disservice. But yeah, so, getting back to the point that, in a good relationship, people take accountability. It's okay to be wrong. It really, really is okay to be wrong, man. It's okay to make mistakes. But what it's not okay to do is to try to escape the repercussions of your mistakes. Man, I can't find the end of this line. It's not okay to blame your mistakes on other people. It's not okay to deny making a mistake. Those are not okay things to do. What they show is that you're incredibly insecure. That you have to hold this like perfect view of yourself, and it shows that you can't receive judgment of any kind. Because if you made a mistake, you can be considered. There's this idea that if you make a mistake, then you're a failure, and I don't think that's true. Just because you failed doesn't make you a failure. It's kind of a problem with the society that we live in. Someone I think pointed out recently that it's due to capitalism, that exists, is that a person doesn't make a mistake, they fail, and therefore they are a failure to the system and to everything else. And so it just, that's a tough place to be in. You don't have to be. You don't have to be in that place if you don't want to. And that was what I was running into, was that this idea that they couldn't be wrong, because that would mean that they'd have to address with themselves the things that were wrong. It's actually the reason too why they don't finish their creative work, is because they're not okay with having made mistakes or being imperfect. And so if it didn't work exactly how they wanted it to the first time, they just weren't going to do it at all, and they were just going to pretend that they never did, and they never desired to do those things. And so, that's where I was like, that's really that's behavior of a immature person, because all the adults I know, all of them, the people that I respect for being mature. That's all. To avoid the misunderstanding of, because there are people who grow and mature and grow to be, they grow up, right? They become adults physically, but they never really mature in their mind. But the ones that I have found that I do respect are the ones who also matured in their minds. And so the ones that I respect are the ones who they recognize that, yeah, you can make a mistake, and the how you deal with that is you find out what went wrong as quickly as possible, and then you do your best to correct it. And that's true of like managers that I've worked under, and that's true of like people I've seen in the spiritual world where I've been. These are people who that they try to, as much as possible, to make up the difference between what went wrong and own their part of it, to make sure that it didn't happen again, right? They recognize that these failures didn't make them. It looks really weird. That a failure doesn't define you unless you don't admit to it, and don't recognize what went wrong, and then they will define you. I think it's okay for what I'm trying to do. Oh, and so that was kind of an issue. It was a big one that I kept running into. That I was like, man, like what's the problem with being wrong? There's just because someone's opinion, you disagree with someone's opinion, isn't a reason to keep doing it, right? Yeah, so I mean, those are a couple of things that if you'll see in toxic relationships is people who never own their shit. They cannot conceive of a world where they could make a mistake because that affects them, and then they have like a very dramatic, loud, tantrum about that you would even think that they could be wrong, which to me is just like really, really absurd. I can't wrap my mind around that is somebody who lives in the real world thinks that they cannot make mistakes when there's tons of evidence to the contrary. You know what I mean? Like, just, because humans aren't perfect. That's kind of the thing about being a human, is that we have limited view of space-time, and we can't see the future. We have a hard time remembering exactly what the past held. And so, for us, that looks like maybe not. And there's a package that's arriving. I'm not sure if they're coming to the door here or elsewhere. Anyway, yeah. So I mean, again, that's just I just think that I mean, if you run into somebody who is trying to sell you on this bill of goods, right, that they can't be wrong, they're infallible regardless, you're running into somebody who's very toxic, because the long story, the short on that is, or the TLDR on that is that if they think that about themselves, then they're living a lie, because that can't possibly be true. It just can't possibly be true that a person could be perfect. It just I mean, like, I want to give more examples, but I think it's pretty self-evident. You know what I mean? Like, that person who who is claiming that they couldn't have possibly ever made mistakes, or they could never possibly make mistakes with their actions, right? Most people don't say this out loud, but with their actions or intimations, they want to behave like, they could never possibly make a mistake. But that person was born as a child and shat themselves on a regular basis. You know what I mean? Like, they had to learn language the same way that we had to learn language. Like, there's, a limited amount of knowledge that they could have based off of their experience and, their knowledge that they've acquired. You know what I mean? So just the idea that a person is infallible, it's just, I mean, it's laughable, right? It's laughable at best, and there's and ludicrous. Yeah, actually, like a total lack of respect to that person, because it just can't possibly be true. So anyway, and so, like, to me, that's not a big deal, right? Like, if I make a mistake, if I hurt you in some way, I'm gonna own it, because it's not that big of a deal. In order of making a mistake, making a mistake is not a big deal. It's what you do afterwards, right? How you clean up the mess. And one of the things that I kept running into in this relationship was that they were unwilling to talk about it without being defensive, without making up excuses, without getting loud and aggressive about it, without screaming and crying, slamming things, just storming out. That that's not a healthy relationship. A healthy relationship is two people who are comfortable and confident in themselves, to recognize errors get made, and then they work together on a solution. And that was one of the big things for me, is that it didn't seem like we were working together on anything. That it kept being turned into a me versus you type conversation. And I don't like, that's not fair to me in a partnership. I mean, I don't view that as a healthy way to exist in a partnership. Mainly because the world is really, really tough. Like, situations are really, really tough. And that it's there's a lot that happens through the time that while you're alive, that you're gonna have to work out, because shit hits the fan all the time. We live in a fractal reality, which means that it's broken, and it's very broken. So it's no surprise that things go haywire. And I don't think that that's any surprise at all. And so the just the and I learned this from improv, right? Like, when you're improvising on stage, the two actors or the entire troupe have to get together as quickly as possible on the same page to solve the solution, solve the problem that's in front of them. Is that we've got to make a show, we've got to entertain these people, and we can't be fighting each other while we're doing that, because making a show, entertaining people is difficult enough in itself, to not add the extra drama to it. And I've seen that. I've seen improvisers who don't get along, who are fighting each other because of their egos on stage, and it makes the show an absolute drag. Like, it's just not something that anybody is enjoying, the audience or the people on stage or the team, because it's just like, geez, you guys, like, if you would just agree, if you would just say yes, and then work together, this would all go a lot smoother. You would all have a really, really good time. And and so for me, that's real big in a relationship. It's just recognizing that, like, life is not easy, and when you have a buddy to do it with, and working on ourselves too isn't easy. And so when you have somebody to do that with, somebody who loves you and who is willing to go the distance with you, that it can become less difficult. And so, and I wasn't really getting that. It was that, hey, I'm feeling left out, Like I feel like that it's this constant thing, and here's the reasons why became then that um, it's all forms of disrespect, and or that that I was saying it to like tear them down or something, and so yeah, for me that was just it was just like this is this, and then every conversation turned into a fight, every conversation about how it's difficult, like this can't possibly be true, what you're doing and saying, because of these reasons. uh, so and just I felt like I wasn't being heard at all, in order to uh, have a conversation. It always had to be a long, drawn out fight. The fights were never resolved um, to any capacity. It was just like, hey, let's sweep it under the rug and ignore it. And so it was just like, never. It was just doing the same cycle over and over and over again. Um, and that's the thing. Like, I was told in that relationship that from this person that I needed to show them more grace, right? That I needed to be more gracious to them, and I agree. I agree that there is in relationships, if you're gonna continue to grow together, you need to show each other a lot of grace. Like, you really need to let people have the freedom to make mistakes, to have the freedom to have bad days, to slip up. You don't run at the first sign of that, and I didn't. That wasn't the point or the goal, to run. But also, I pointed out, yeah, that exists. Yeah, absolutely. In order to make a relationship work, you have to like be gracious to one another and allow that, and recognize the fact that these things will happen. But at the same time, if a person is not willing to change, and they're not willing to even accept that 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 you're being hurt by them, they just continue to do it. So that actually doesn't help anybody, to have them do that. Um, and so, because it allows them to just keep doing the thing they're doing, and it allows them to keep hurting you. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, maybe I'll let you do that, but fool me three times, that's on me, right? At that point, that's on me to recognize the type of person, the type of situation that it is, and then to take the distance. Another thing that kept happening was that we would make plans, or attempt to make plans, and then they wouldn't follow through on those plans. They would either check out, or they would leave. They wouldn't show up and expect the plan to still happen. Early on, this happened. We woke up in the morning together. They had an early morning meeting that they had to go to, and I said, that's fine. I'll let you do your thing. I'm gonna go make breakfast for us at my house, and why don't you come over when you're done? And so I went. I made breakfast, and then I waited for them to show up, and they never did. And then they never did. No call, no text, no nothing. They just didn't show up. And it was very confusing. We had plans. He was the thing that we both agreed that we wanted to do, is we wanted you to get to your meeting so you could. And then we wanted to have breakfast together. And then they didn't, until 2 or 3 hours later. They showed up. And obviously the breakfast was finished, the dishes were washed. And what happened at that time was, then they demanded that I make them new breakfast, that I make breakfast for them at that time. Even though that they had not showed up to when breakfast was made and served. And so just, very mystified. Like, this is not the sort of thing. No calls, no texts, just showing up out of the blue, and then demanding the thing that they had been promised. you know, and I did at that time, but I also was like, hey, that's really, really disrespectful because this is the first I've heard of it. You know, I didn't even know that there was a change of plans, and yet you've decided, you know, that I still owe you this thing. Um, and I was like, that's, you know, that's weird. And then it kept happening. They would decide, you know, we're going to do such and such a thing, and then change their minds last minute, or they would, you know, I wouldn't hear from them at all. I would still make the plans. I'd still be there, and I'd just be sitting and waiting. And then I finally clued into the fact. I was like, oh, I'm not a priority to this person at all. I don't matter to this person at all. You know, and so that's when I was like, kind of like, yeah, you know what, you don't want to show up. I don't need to show up either. And so when I started doing that, you know, they would make plans, and I'd be like, well, that's fine. You missed out, you know, because you decided to do your own thing instead, which is totally fine. Absolutely respect your free will to do whatever you want to. But now I'm doing something else. You know, I'm no longer doing the thing that we said because there was a time frame that we agreed that this was going to be the case, and you decided that wasn't you know, valuable enough to even communicate about. And so, you know, that made them very, very mad. Now this is a thing that I guess you know, I didn't know about because, like I said, I've had very healthy relationships before this one, and so I didn't know about it. But like that's apparently a thing that's pretty common. Like it was not sad at missing out, and it wasn't apologetic for not communicating. It was anger. It like angry that I would hold them accountable for their actions, and that's what I began to notice a lot more. Is that it was this. That everything would be fine as long as I let them do whatever they wanted to. But once I was like, hey, you know, you can't really treat me like that, and I'm not gonna let you keep treating me like that, because I deserve more than that. You know, I deserve better than that. I say deserve, but you know what I mean. Like it's really the gift of the Magi type of thing. Is that, you know, I show up for you, right? The least that I expect is you to show up for me, right? And it's not a one-to-one sort of thing, but it's just the, you know, even just showing up to be like, hey, I'm running late, can we reschedule breakfast? Or, hey, I'm running late, can we, once you go ahead and I'll meet up with you at another time, that sort of thing. But like just the fact that it, you know, no communication, no consideration, is when I'm like, yeah, you don't actually care for me as a person. I'm just a thing to you. I'm just, you know, a convenience for you. And the more that I kept holding them accountable for that, the angrier they got, for being asked to be respectful of another person, of my time, to you know, keep me in the loop, you know. So anyway, those are some big ones. But yeah, it kept happening. One of the things that really got under my skin, and more than anything else, and I didn't really think too much of it, but the more it kept happening, the more I just had this like empty feeling, and I couldn't really put my finger on it. But it was happening physically, that you know, I would be reaching for them, you know, for cuddles, for sex, for you know, I'd be the one reaching out to them, and they wouldn't be reaching back at all. And it's actually I noticed it the most, and this is odd, but while we were sleeping, right? That every time I woke up, I would have to be the one to like reach out and to like pull them back in to like cuddle them. Then I'd wake up again, and they would be, you know, on the other side of the bed and away from me. You know, and to the point where like I was like, that's really odd. I wish I didn't have to keep doing this. So I stopped reaching out, and then I got critiqued, of course, that, you know, like, you didn't cuddle me. You weren't the one who you didn't wrap me up, and, you know, you weren't holding me. You know, and I'm like, you know, that's a two-way street. That's a two-way street. If you want those things, you also have to do the reaching out. And I feel like, and then it was so mind-blowing to me, because it's the first time I'd really experienced that in a relationship. Because most times, you know, that I've been with somebody, they were into me. too. You know what I mean? And I say most times, every time, with the exception of this one, we were into each other. We enjoyed being around each other, and so one of us would call the other one. When one of us would reach out to cuddle. One of us would initiate, and it could have gone either way. It was one or the other. It wasn't just all on me. Uh, and so it was just, I was so tired, because what it did was it put me in the place of constant rejection, right? Like I'd be the one who had to initiate the cuddles or the conversation or whatever, and then I would be the one who got shut down or got denied. Um, which, it happens, not a big deal. That's not the issue of being shut down or denied. It's more that it was the burden was on me to do it, and then I would be accused of or blamed for not starting not starting the cuddles, not initiating, not making the phone calls, as if it was solely my responsibility. And people do this, when they fear rejection. They don't make moves because then their move could be rejected. You see it on the stage, and when people improvise a lot. Somebody who's real timid won't start a scene, won't have their character make interesting or bold moves because they don't want it to get it denied. And so I get that. That's the case. It's something that I had to work through. Also, but have grown out of more because rejection is not that big of a deal. Like sometimes things will work out and sometimes they won't. Right? That's not a big deal. But to constantly be the one who is doing that and responsible for that, and then judged for not doing it, even though it's not necessarily even what you wanted, but what the other person wanted, is where it was just like, man, this is not a healthy dynamic at all. It really does. It does put all the power into the hands of this other person to accept or deny that. So that is the case, and there's more things too, like healthy respective boundaries. This person kept showing up at my work all the time, and actually when I got a new job, they showed up every day for my entire shift while I was in training, and I was like, okay, that's weird, and then they wanted my full attention while I was at the job. And then I had to sit them down and be like, look, I'm working. Like, this is the reason I'm here is I'm getting paid by these people to do this. That I have to be doing those things. And they got very offended that you don't want to see me, you don't want me to come spend time with you. And I was like, it's super weird that you're even doing this. It's very controlling. That you're even doing this. This is the sort of thing that just it feels icky that you're doing it. Also, it makes me look bad. You're not considering how it is that, like, it seems like I need someone here all the time. It seems like I'm slacking because I'm spending time with you. It seems like, I'm not doing my job because of you, right? And that's again, just, this constant need for attention. I get wanting to have people see you, and I get wanting to see a person, for sure. That is 100% just such a great thing to have a relationship that you enjoy seeing each other. But also, two full adults should have things to do, like a full life, because that's what was happening. Is that I was being told that that I was the reason that they weren't getting anything done, that they weren't succeeding at the things that they wanted to do, was because they were spending all their time with me. And I was like, but I don't even want you here. Like, how is that my responsibility? How that you are here, that you're not accomplishing the things in your life, like doing your laundry, like showering, that when you're the one who's making those choices. And so I don't know. There's just, I think that that healthy respect of boundaries, and not respecting people for their autonomy, is a good indicator of something that's just a toxic relationship. That was one of the things that like really got me, in that was that and even after we had the conversation, hey, you can't be doing that, they kept doing it. They kept showing up. They kept having all the time. They kept blaming me for not getting things done because they were spending all their time with me, and I was like, I don't. You need to stop. I don't want it. And that became like a big fight, right? Like that became another big fight. That you don't want to see me, you don't want me around, and I'm like, that's not what I'm saying at all. That's not what I'm saying at all. It actually the final straw for me was, I was like, hey, you know what? This isn't working out, but maybe we can hang out as friends. Let's go do something as friends, and they wanted to still behave as if we were a couple. And one of the things that kind of complicated the situation is that we had gone to a place where their friends were there, and we hadn't officially ended stuff, publicly, I guess, or whatever. There was more, but because there was so much like just trash talking me behind my back, I found out, and I was kind of like getting the vibe from their friends that like I was being like degraded to them too, because when I was around them they would be giving me this like side eye, and I'd be like, what is going on? These people used to be cool, we used to be cool with each other, and why are they acting like, now I'm not cool, we're not cool. And I was like, oh, that's right, because this person has been talking about me to them. So of course not. So they wanted to put on the show for their friends there, that we were still fine, that everything was good and whatnot. And I was really like, nah, you know what? We talked about this. Let's be cool. I don't want to put on the show like we're a couple for them. And I was trying to be very casual about it. I wasn't trying to embarrass them in front of their friends. I wasn't trying to like call them out so that they would look a fool or anything like that. But just the act of autonomy, where it was like, hey, please don't be touching me like that. That's not the relationship that I want with you. That became a huge like blow up fight of like half an hour or 45 minutes as I drove them home, and just like absolute nightmare. And that was really like the final straw for me, because I was like, you're putting more energy into this facade than you are into the actual relationship, than you ever had into the actual relationship. It was more about how you appeared, with this person, with me as this person, than it was about, actually putting the work behind closed doors. And so that it was just, and then that you're allowed to have emotions, but I'm not allowed to have emotions or reactions to those emotions. It's just an unfair way to be. Anything that I was saying was not valid, but I needed to respect everything that they were saying. And so, anyway, there you go. Hopefully that helps you to recognize maybe some of the toxic relationships that you're in. Because it's subtle. It's subtle. I feel like I'm a person who is pretty self-aware of what's happening. That I don't come at things with a lot of my own personal bias. I want to see the situation as it is, and then also I'm idealist, so I want things to be good. I want people to live up to their best. I want to believe that they're not doing it on purpose, right? Like they aren't out to get me. They're just making a mistake. But the more that I realized that it was they wanted to be the way that they were, it was working for them. They had gotten everything that they wanted by doing that throughout the years. Whoops. That's when I was like, yeah, no, this isn't gonna work. On the flip, just here's a summary. On the flip, because I could talk about all these specifics about this relationship and why it felt bad. But here's the flip. Let's put in the positive so that you can be like, hey, so what is a good relationship, right? A good relationship is when people show up equally for each other. that they do it because they want to, right? They enjoy being around each other so much that they're there for them. Um, that when they act out, yeah, when they act out in a way, right? People sometimes lose their temper. People have bad days where they're sad. I know women, you're under a lot of stress when your body is going through a monthly cycle, right? You're in a constant pain. You feel pretty gross. Like all that sort of stuff. Your hormones are going crazy, and so there's room for that, where you've been squeezed and pressed so much that you do and say things that you don't really mean because you're really just it's too much. Autistic people too, they can get really overwhelmed, and so they do things that they don't mean to say and do. And so there's room for that. That's an understandable thing. But when it does happen, they recognize quickly that they've done something that they don't intend to do. They've done something that was hurtful, and quickly and immediately own up to it. And that's not one way. That's both ways. If you're the person who's constantly apologizing to your partner, but they're never apologizing back to you, you're probably in a toxic relationship. You might be the flip side, like I was, where you're like the type of person who owns your own shit, and tries to fix that as quickly as possible. But the other person isn't doing that back to you. It's probably a toxic relationship. Just honesty is a huge thing. So if you're feeling that a person is just not being truthful with you by their actions or by their deeds, that's pretty good tell. It's pretty toxic. Following through, and this is part of it. The not being true to not telling the truth is consistently showing up. They say that they're going to do a thing, they do a thing. They say they're not going to do a thing, they stop doing the thing. That's a healthy relationship. If they can't do the thing, they immediately address it and then see what they can do to fix that thing. That's a healthy relationship. That's a healthy person that you'd want to be around. And so that's what I would want. That's what I want for you. That's what I would want for anybody, is that that both people are being they're doing what they say, and they say what they're going to do. They're not assuming things about one another. They're not getting injured by the thoughts and that are being said, in the conversations. Not flying off the handle during conversations regularly. They're not taking it out on you, but they're taking the time to hear your point of view. Now, the thing is about this, in a good relationship, this is real easy. You don't have to strive for this. In a good relationship, both parties care so much for each other that they try to do this for each other. They try to be there for each other as much as possible. They both try to make each other happy. They both work at fixing themselves and becoming better people for the person that they're with. And so, if you're in this place where that's not the case, it's not a two-way street, then you're in a bad relationship, and there might be room to fix it if both parties are willing to do it. There might be room for that, but there might not be either. Because both parties really have to do it. Guys, it's not time yet. I know, but it's not time yet. But the cats are bugging me. They're like, hey, have you considered your cats? We're gonna eat in like 90 minutes, so it's not time yet. I'm not an expert, so take everything I've said with a grain of salt. But I have had healthy relationships. Like, I do have really healthy friendships with the people that I'm around. I think that most people who know me will tell you that I do my best to hear what people are saying. I do my best to own up to my mistakes that I think I think more about others than I do myself, and that I value people and for who they are, and what they bring to the table. I think that I view most of the world as we're equals to each other because we're all just humans on this planet, and all of us have different fields of expertise. Generally, we have different knowledge bases that we come from. Um, so I think that if you ask most people who know me, that would be the case, with the exception, of course, this person who has decided that I have become the enemy to them, and have decided to spread dirt on my name to everybody that they know that I know, which has been it's been pretty distressing, honestly, because I I do my best on a regular basis. I always try to give you my best, um, regardless of how I'm feeling. I try to be the type of person who won't take my emotions out on other people. That I won't be disrespecting another person simply because I'm in a bad mood, right? Uh, because I don't. That's not fair. It's not a fair thing to do. It's a very childish thing to do. Um, but uh, that's that's the way that it is. But take it for what it is. I think that most people would agree. And you guys, please comment below if I've spoken out of turn, or if you agree, disagree, with my stance on that, or what I've said. Maybe I'm wrong. It's a possibility. Maybe there's things that I don't understand. It's a possibility. So you can always comment below. This wasn't really this whole conversation today was not really supposed to be about me. I mean, it is because that's the only experience I have, but it isn't, because I feel like I'm not the only person who exists in a toxic relationship, or who's been in one, and a lot of it I think does come from the way that our culture, American culture, is that capitalism is inherently pretty abusive, and it abuses the workers, because the idea is that you exploit people for as much as you can get out of them and give them the littlest back that you can, which is kind of especially you see a lot more in late stage capitalism like we're in America, and so that's pretty abusive. If you can get labor for free, uh, that is like the highest goal in a lot of ways. Um, or as inexpensive as possible and maximize the output. So I think that we live in a toxic culture, and the people who rise to the top of that are people who know how to do this the best. How to exploit people the best, and so I think it is passed down through that. I think that you do see it. People. I think it was from How I Met Your Mother. Neil Patrick Harris's character introduces this idea of the circle of screaming. Your boss screams at you. You go home and scream at your spouse. Your spouse screams at your kids scream at the dog. The circle of screaming. But it was in a Norman Rockwell painting as well. So this idea has been around for a while, and so I think that we internalize that, and then we think that this is how relationships are, and so we do that to each other too. And so I think that's why it's important to call it out and talk about it. This situation has caused me a lot of anguish, only because I did and do care very much for this person who was doing this to me, and I wish more than anything that we could get along, for that, and that this wasn't a thing that kept us separate from each other, because I feel like they do have a lot to offer the world. They do have a lot of potential, to do good and be good, but they just have learned and practiced really bad behaviors, and so they aren't good. They don't want to be good, because it's got them what they want. And so it's just it saddens me to the core, to find out that I'm the type of person who could be fooled so badly, and I think that a lot of people who have done this. You see, I've stopped working altogether. I'm sorry, guys. I feel like a lot of people who have fallen into this trap, they feel the same way or pretty similar. They're like, I'm smart, I'm emotionally intelligent. I handle myself. I take care of myself. I try not to let my problems spill on to other people. And so they think to themselves, how could I have been so stupid to think that what they were doing was love? And this one was short. I mean, it was a very short relationship, a couple of months. I mean, we talked a great bit more before I actually met them. We were talking for a few months, about 4 or 5 months before I actually got into the relationship with them, and we were dating more specifically. But but it was only a couple of months that we were together. But like, it's the same. I think, especially in the longer that you're in it, the more you're like, well, I mean, I don't want to admit that I've made a terrible mistake. That I've that I could be fooled so badly, and that was part of the reason why I hung on and I tried for the next couple of months, even though it wasn't working. Was that I wanted to believe so badly that this person could be better than they were, and I wanted to have hope that they would they could change, that this that the love that I had for them would be enough to motivate them to change and want to be better than they were. But you can't. That's kind of excuse me. It's kind of the conclusion I had to come to. Was that people don't change unless they want to. People will remain the same. And they will continue to do the things that they feel serves them best. And so, as much as I wanted it to be different, it dang, I think I messed this cloud up. Shoot, I did. I need to open that up. And so I had to accept that. I had to accept that for what it was. That I don't have just a flat beach. Okay. You have to let people be who they want to be. But in that you have free will also, you don't have to be, if the person's going to not be bothered to show up for the relationship, not be bothered to communicate with you, not be bothered to show care or concern, not be bothered to reach out, that you can not be bothered by it. It does mean that, and I think I've mentioned it in passing, but more directly, it does mean that you're gonna have to deal with the fallout. There are a bunch of people who have only heard this person's side of the story, and they're painting themselves as a victim, as they always do, and that's another toxic trait, just always playing the victim. And never admitting that you may have possibly made mistakes yourself. That I don't get to socialize with anymore, and that's tough now, especially because I'm in a place that I don't really know all that many people, and so the people that I do know, this person was very quickly made sure that they heard her side of the story first. So I don't get to have those friends, and I don't get to socialize with them, and that is hard to walk it by yourself, walk the, but so is life, I guess. Thanks for listening, guys. I really do appreciate that. You know, I hope that. Well, I appreciate you guys that you tuning in. I hope that this has helped you guys recognize possibly the situation that you're in, or that somebody else is in. The big thing is, no one can. No one can. You can't fix or change anybody. That if they don't want to be, so you have to kind of accept that. The only thing you can do is choose for yourself. I will throw in this thing here that sucks, but I have to say it. I really do get that for some people who are in long-term relationships and they put up with this for a long time, that you you need to be cautious as you make the moves to get out of that situation, because that is what's considered, I forget exactly the word, but it's like the crucial time where you could get killed by that partner, because there's partners who, if they can't have you, no one will. And so, and I just, I'm a follower of true crime, so that's how I know that, from therapist point of view, caseworker's point of view, the police point of view, that trying to get away from them is the most dangerous time that you can be around them, is that when they think that they're losing you. Fortunately for me, I wasn't. Why is this so weird? I wonder. I wasn't dependent on them financially, or situationally. So I did have the ability to, and it was very short term. I did have the ability to distance myself, but it hasn't stopped them from continuing to stalk me, to keep showing up at the places that I am, continuing to reach out and harass over the different social medias, trying to negate my point of view, to say that I'm the one who is doing the things to them actually, and so I had a little fallout, but please be careful if you're hearing this and you're like, ooh, that's my relationship, ooh, it's been going on for way too long. Every day feels bad with this person. Every situation feels bad. This is definitely not healthy. I would encourage you to get out, but also to be real careful. And it sucks. It sucks that it's like this. Reality's broken, and it's broken because everything has free will, and anybody can choose. Anything can choose to be however it wants to be. And that's a good thing, because we can create all sorts of beautiful things. And it's a bad thing because, in the, in that you can choose anything, means that things can choose to be real bad to each other. And so, it just, that's what breaks reality. The goodness of reality is free will. So I like I said, I'm an idealist. I wish that everything was as good as everyone was as good as they could be. That everything was as optimal as it could be. But it's just not the nature of things to be that way, and that's because we have to have the freedom to choose in order to do anything. Like, entropy is what creates reality, right? Like, it's the slowing down and the cooling of light, which is a loss of what it is, that makes it turn into matter, right? And so in so many different ways that, it's our free will that kind of like creates the friction in the universe that causes things to happen. And so, for good or for ill, that's what we got. So yeah, just take that as a grain of salt. Please live your own life in the best way that you can. Just a person talking on YouTube is what it is. It works specifically in my life because of this real specific circumstances of my life, right? And that's why my advice or thoughts or whatever are only going to specifically work for me because I'm the one who's living this life. They unfortunately they're not as useful to you, but you can take your truth from it. You have to resonate it against your own truth, and you're just in a skin suit. You're just a spirit in a skin suit, or a flesh mech, yeah, however you want to put it. You're a bundle of neurons that's interacting with a very complex electrical system, that shapes that you can use to shape the world around you. So that bundle of neurons knows your situation and knows your life better than any other bundle. But it does know ideally what it is that's best for you. And I think that if you sit with that quietly and patiently, and I think that if you listen, and truly desire to know what is best, that you'll come to the solution of what is best for you. And so, stumbling upon like a conversation like this, so you can begin to have those thoughts with yourself, is what we're all here for. That's what we all do together with each other. So I'm not saying you should live your life like me or any of the things that I have suggested, but I am saying that hopefully it can help you find your truth. So wow, that was quite a ramble. We've reached our time for today, and I thank you for being here with me and listening again to this bit of a story about my life. I'm Skip Merazi, your host and friend, here on a behind the scenes podcast for Cox in Space. I think I'm going to finish up this little bit with Peter, so that I can clip him out too. We can start looking at what the background's going to look like, and hopefully we'll start animating in the next episode. So if you want to check out what we're doing, of course, go to coxinspace.com, coxinspace.com. You can click on our Patreon link down there. You can support us, keep the show going, keep the project going, keep these rambles going, so that if you want to, please like and comment and share below. But especially the commenting part, I would like to hear your thoughts on these topics, whether you've had similar experiences, if you've had different experiences, if you think I'm completely wrong, please do that. So I'm going to sign off for today, but I hope to see you guys real soon, and